Hello again. Welcome to the Dreaming of One Day podcast. This podcast uses guided imagery of some of the Western Cape's dreamy destinations to help relax the mind and assist with sleep. At the same time, these images give your subconscious mind something to mull over, increasing the likelihood you'll dream of them as you drift off to sleep. In previous episodes, we've explored the winelands on horseback and gone whale watching off the coast of Gansbaai. Tonight, we'll be taking a moonlight meander along the shoreline at Gericke's Point on the garden route, exploring the rock pools for pincushions and periwinkles. Take a deep breath and let's begin. Settle yourself comfortably in whatever position you're in. You can move about until you find the position that's just right for you, right now. Take another deep breath and hold it in. When you exhale, feel your body relax, letting the tension melt away. Take another deep breath and hold it for just a second before breathing out. Give your body permission to relax. Let the muscles in your face melt down. Relax your brow and your jaw. Let your shoulders ease into the bed. There's nowhere else you need to be right now than right here. "500 kilometers outside of Cape Town, hiding between the towns of George and Knysna, lies the small seaside village of Sedgefield. Surrounded by lakes and sand dunes covered in fynbos, and between the Swartvlei estuary and the Indian Ocean, it's known as a slow town. They say that here, life is set to the speed of nature. There's no sense of urgency or panic. And rush hour, well, that's not a phrase used very often here. Listen. Can you hear the ocean? The sound of the waves crashing on the sand and rocks again and again. A calming rhythm that seems to say, shh, shh. The beach here is usually quiet, but even more so at this time of night. The sun has long since set, taking away the sting of heat. A cool, gentle breeze blows over the ocean and runs up the shore. The smell of the sea is clean and crisp. You can taste the salt in the air. Nearby, someone must have lit a fire for the evening. You can smell it for just a moment when the breeze stops and the ocean takes a breath. Just on the edge of the shoreline sits Gericke's Point. It's quite literally the point where the long Swartvlei beach takes a sharp turn and juts out into the ocean. The rocky outcrop is relatively small in comparison to the vast stretches of beach on either side of it. Below it, a collection of rock pools teem with sea life and shells. Further up the beach, layers of fossilized sandstone can be read like a timeline, stretching back thousands of years. But here, the sand and stone have formed in a much more imaginative way. Known as Lion Rock, it's a formation that's come to look like a reclining sphinx or a crouching lion. In the moonlight, it's easy to imagine the rock as a lion. The shades and shadows transform into a mane or a paw. The ocean feels different at night, strange somehow. You look out across the shoreline, trying to spot anything out of the ordinary in the waves. It's dark, but still easy to see, the shoreline washed in a glow from the moon above. It's a full moon tonight, and it hangs in the air like a bright bulb, its mirror shimmering on the surface of the water below. Tonight, the moon is the star of the show, while the actual stars take a back seat, shining dimly in the glow of the moon, almost shyly. You wonder what creatures come out at night in the changing of shifts. You scan the horizon for the resident pod of humpback dolphins, hoping to see them surfing the waves towards the beach. They're nowhere to be seen, and it makes you wonder, where do dolphins sleep? Walking out onto the beach, the sand is cool and firm. The spring tide has pulled the shore right back as if the moon was calling it home. There's so much more beach now, the sand stretching its arms as far as it can from the high water line, all the way down to where the waves crash now. You can tell where the high water mark is because dotted along the beach are blue bottles and other jellyfish washed ashore, their stingers trailing behind them back towards the water, as if also calling for home. Looking more closely, the blue bottles and jellyfish aren't the only things in the sand. A group of plow snails is crawling out of the sand, making their way to clean the beach of blue bottle bodies. You continue down the beach towards the rock pools, careful not to step on any of the snails, your eyes surveilling the sand around each step. You notice something shine in the moonlight. You stop and pick up the shell, brushing off the sand around it. It's about the size of your hand, brown and reddish stripes that spiral out from the center, small and tight in the middle, and growing as it spins out. Inside, it's smooth and shiny, like a pearl. You place it back in the sand, thinking it could make a beautiful home for some lucky crab. It's been relatively calm until now, but getting closer to the rock pools, you realize just how alive the shore really is. The rocks are covered in life. In the shallows, tiny silver fish dart here and there, shimmering in the moonlight like stars, a piece of the night sky brought down to earth. A few crabs scurry along the bottom of the pool, holding out their one giant pincher like Popeye or a grumpy old man shaking his fist at all the uninvited guests on his lawn. Out of the water, barnacles and periwinkles cover the rocks like ground pepper scattered around. Hundreds of mussel shells cling to the rocks shut tight, waiting for the water to rise back up. You wonder how different the shore would look if you could stand here and speed up time, watching as the mussels breathe and the periwinkles graze on their gardens of algae. You step over the rocks, taking slow, deliberate steps. You peer into another rock pool, each one its own tiny neighborhood. Here in this burrow, a few anemones sit outside of the water. Without their tentacles out, they look rather like plums sitting on the rocks. In the water, a few urchins try to hide under debris, pulling shells and seaweed over their heads. You shine your torch into the pool, wondering what the creatures might do with the sudden arrival of daylight. The light lets you see just how full of stars the rock pools are. Starfish of all different shapes and sizes dot the rocks. There are big starfish with long, gangly limbs, as if drawn in a hurry with a thick felt-tipped pen. There are also smaller, plumper ones, like little pincushions, sitting snugly in the corners and crevices of the pools. You try and pick up one of the bigger starfish. It feels alien in your hands. Its surface is rough and bumpy, but underneath it is smooth as it tries to suction onto you. You put him back in the water upside down and watch as he slowly maneuvers himself the right way up. You meander on to some of the deeper rock pools when you spotted an octopus. At first you can't be sure. Its skin mirrors the colors and texture of the rock behind it, hiding it. It mimics the light and shade as you shine your torch into the pool. The side closest is lighter, and the side that's further away is darker, mimicking the shadows cast by the torchlight. You slowly dip your foot in the water, hoping the octopus is as inquisitive as you and not as hungry. The octopus sends out one single tentacle like E.T.'s finger to investigate. The suckers on the underside wrap around your foot as the octopus tries to gently pull you in. It's not unpleasant exactly, but you'd rather not be a meal. So you pull your foot back out of the water, peeling the tentacle away as you do. The octopus seems put out now. It moves on to find another meal, maybe a crab. It moves fast through the water, using a combination of walking with tentacles and propelling itself forward. It's hard to tell how big it really is. Perhaps it's the moonlight or the speed that it moves, but it almost seems to shapeshift like a memory, uncertain in parts and more solid in others. With the octopus gone, you feel fine to sit here with both feet in the water. Below, bigger anemones with their crown of tentacles out sway in the water, this way, then that. A group of limpets lift themselves up, making their shells look like a grass skirt, waving slowly, almost dancing. You switch your torch off and just sit for a while, here on the rock, like one of the hundreds of periwinkles or mussels. Isn't it amazing, you wonder to yourself, how in a short while tide will come in and cover all the rock pools in fresh seawater. But here, now, you're able to just sit in a place that will be underwater again soon. But for right now, it isn't, allowing you to peer into this alien world. And this is where we'll stay for a while. The group has gone on ahead, beams of torchlight wandering around like the tentacles of an octopus, leaving you here to sit alone, washed in the light of the moon and the ocean's calm call of until you can visit again. One day.